Hello everybody, welcome. This is the remake of the AD mentoring session that we did on December 2nd. We weren't able, for technical reasons, to be able to complete that, so we're going to record that today and put that up on the website. Today's January 12th, but we'll put it back up on the website so that we have access to that. Today's presenters, you're going to hear today from, if you go to the next slide, Rich, from Jim Piccolo and okay. So the presenters today, we originally on December 2nd had Steve Bridge, Rich Jelenich, and Wendy Malich, who were going to present for us along with Jim Piccolo and Dave Ticker. Today we've got Rich and Jim and Tom on here. Some of the others may join us, but that's where we are at the moment. The next slide is going to show us again, just repeat so that everybody has seen these again. We have a mentoring program set up in each district in the state, and we have different representatives who are working with us on those. The next slide shows us what you've seen before, which is the schedule of each of the sessions. Again, this is the December 2nd session. Tomorrow on January 13th, we'll be doing our next one, and then we have one each month from that point on. The next slide shows you have copies of this, and again, if anybody needs copies of this, let me know, but you have a copy of the outline of all of the materials that we're going to cover in these. The next slide is going to show us just again the mechanics of the webinar. You will be getting email reminders. You can come on either with the computer, just with the computer itself, or just with the phone, just depending on what your needs are. We're going to do these Tuesday mornings at 9:30. You will then be able to go to the WSSAAA.com webpage, and you will be able to review all of these. In addition to that, if you are a WSSAA member, you can get a free LTI class and registration to our State Athletic Directors Conference in April through Dave Ticker, and we'll give you his address again at the end. Today's topics, we break down into 3 different segments for what it is that we want to do. We're going to talk about what do you need to do right now, the responsibilities of each of the sports that you may be in charge of as an athletic director. We're going to talk about getting down to work, which is sort of like, what am I going to do in the next 6 months, year to get ready to do this job even better than what I'm doing. And then looking ahead, structuring for success is going to be looking 3 to 5 years down the road and figuring that now I can begin to start looking at some bigger issues. So we'll start today with the sports responsibilities on the next slide. And we'll kind of take you through here. Basically, I think in probably most areas that I'm familiar with, each athletic director has a responsibility for a sport in your league. If you don't have one of those because you're new, you're lucky. But in most cases, when you come in, they've told you that you're in charge of a particular sport. And you really need to find out, you need to ask a lot of questions in that. You maybe have already been through this, but you need to find out about how scheduling takes place, who's doing that. Are you having to do it, or does somebody else do a league schedule for you? If you're going to do that, who do you involve in making that schedule? Do you get coaches involved, other athletic directors, just all of that kind of thing. How many out-of-league contests do you have to leave room for? If it's a spring sport, for instance, what do you do over spring break? Do you play games over spring break, or do you have to work your schedule around that? You also have to talk about, in most cases, if you're in charge of a sport, you will have to host a coaches meeting for all of the coaches of that particular sport. And again, before you do that, you want to make sure that you have a very good plan for what it is that you want to accomplish at that meeting. You want to find out some history of what's happened in the past, what problems maybe occurred in previous years, because if you're doing scheduling, you may need to resolve some of those problems that happened in previous years. You also need to keep in mind that we're at the beginning of a new 2-year cycle, and so the schedule may not be the same as last year's because you might have new and different teams this year in your schedule. Things could be significantly different depending upon the makeup of your league and what's happened there. So you need to find out a lot of information about what has happened and what people want that schedule to look like. There are a lot of different scheduling formats. If you have, say, 6 teams in your league and you want to play each other twice, once home and once away, there are a lot of scheduling programs out there that can help you to do that. And then you can tweak it a little bit based on, you know, the particular needs of schools. And but you have to have some way to be able to communicate all of that information. Pick or Rich, either way, you want to add anything at that so far?
On the coaches meetings, if you're going to have those, make sure you get input from those coaches in developing that agenda. You can't, don't make it all your agenda. If you want ownership, have them put some things into it too. Therefore, you'll have that better cohesive meeting when it comes time. And then stay on time. If you say it's an hour, it's an hour. If it's 45 minutes, it's 45. Don't run over. And that way people know that you're serious about what you want to do.
Yeah, just a lot of the stuff on meetings I'll have in the next couple slides. That's it's all about meetings.
Okay, great. And just to throw in there also, depending upon your sport, you may want to invite someone from the Officials Association to come and speak with your coaches as well as part of that. The other thing on postseason preparation and tournaments, you need to, as early as possible, have your tournament brackets determined. It'd be nice to have it for the coaches meeting. You may or may not be ready to do that. But you have to have a pretty good idea of what those tournament brackets are going to look like. And again, it depends upon what the sport is, where you're going to play, and find out if there's anything that you need to do in order to be able to prepare for that. I know when I was athletic director, I had swimming, for instance, and so I had to make really plan ahead on determining, you know, when we were going to use those facilities, where I was going to get the timing equipment from, where I was going to get the people that were going to work it. You know, all of those things need to be done well in advance so that you're ready to go and you can get out a bulletin or a syllabus to everybody. It seems to me that syllabus ought to be out minimum of a month before the tournament. It'd be nice to have it, you know, earlier in the season, but as soon as you can get that bulletin out so that people know how they qualify, what they need to do, who they need to contact, and all of that business is very useful for everybody. Any other thoughts on tournaments?
No.
Okay. All right, as far as district level stuff, one of the first things that you need to be very aware of is what the district eligibility dates are. Now, all of the districts are going to hold eligibility hearings at the beginning of each sports season. Each district's got a little bit different timing depending upon how many hearings they have and where they're going to hold them. But in most cases, your eligibility paperwork has to be turned in several days in advance of the eligibility hearing date, because the eligibility chairman needs to be able to sit down with the paperwork, make sure everything is there, all the forms are included, and have some time to be able to get a hold of an athletic director if things are missing, and also to let the family know when it's going to be. So if you know that you have a eligibility hearing coming up, the sooner you get that paperwork moving, the sooner you get it filled out, and the sooner you get it into your eligibility chairperson, the better off everybody's going to be. But you need to plan ahead again on those. Eligibility, just again to make sure you hear it, when you declare somebody ineligible for varsity competition, there is a timeline in the WI handbook on how many days they have to appeal that. So if you choose not to appeal that at the beginning of a sports season, and halfway through the sports season you have injuries or the kid's gotten better or whatever, and all of a sudden you say, gee, we'd like to have this kid on our varsity, you probably will not be able to appeal that later in the year because you've missed those deadlines. So when you're looking through your paperwork at the beginning of the season, make sure that you go through the process of hearings with anybody who you think might want to be on your varsity squad during the year.
Yeah, and Tom and Jim, I'm on the eligibility committee for District 3, and I think we're the highest volume district in the state as far as hearing appeals, and so I just want to reiterate everything that you've said about making sure that ADs hit their deadlines and you know, get on it as early as you can, because in District 3, I know that, you know, if people miss a date, it's hard to get back on the schedule, and then it pushes it into an emergency hearing, and emergency hearings come with a cost associated with it, and that. So it's just so important to make sure that you're on time with all of your stuff, and you're communicating with your district eligibility chair.
Great, thank you. Meeting schedules, both in league and in district. In most cases, you will have a meeting schedule, and you'll know when the meetings are all year long. And so if there are issues that you want to be bringing up in front of the district, for instance, or you'd like to go sit in on a district meeting, those are generally published on all of our websites, and you can go in and find out when those are. And I would speak for other district directors, I'm sure, and say, you know, if you'd like to come and sit in on a district meeting just to see what it's like, you certainly are welcome to do that. It's a great way to get a different perspective on what's happening, because in your school, you have a focus on what's going on just in your school, and then maybe you got a little bit bigger circle where you think about what's going on in the league. But there's a whole other circle outside of that of district, and then, of course, another one outside of that of state, where there are different things that are happening and different perspectives on what's going on. But know when those are scheduled so that you can take advantage of them if you need to. The playoff dates, you really, again, need to anticipate the beginning of the season when you're publishing information for parents, for coaches, and for athletes. Putting it on your website, you should be putting those playoff dates up on the website as quickly as it is possible to do that. I know as a district director, I get phone calls frequently from parents who are saying, you know, gee, do you know when the gymnastics meet is going to be, or what's the basketball playoff schedule look like, because it's not always up yet. Especially in this first year of a 2-year cycle, we tend to be a little slower in getting dates put up there and brackets put up and things like that, just because it's we have to recreate it in the first year of each 2-year cycle. The second year of a 2-year cycle, it's much easier, and you'll see those things up there sooner. But as soon as it's possible for you to publish those playoff dates, get them out to your community, because it just helps with the planning that coaches, parents, and athletes are doing with everybody's busy schedules. Anything else on that, guys?
No, the more you publicize that and the more you have those on your calendar, the better off everybody is, so everybody's on the same page. One of the things also with playoff dates, and it's a little bit related back to one of our conversations before, make sure you're getting your rosters in, make sure you're getting your pitchers into the state. Whether you make it to the state or not, get them in, because there's nothing more than embarrassing than to have your pitcher or the roster in there because you or somebody forgot to put it in and it doesn't show up in the program. So make sure those calendar dates and playoff dates are all very important.
Yeah, and this year it's especially important that you're doing it both on the WPA and the Max Preps sites. So it's kind of a double entry this year, and that's something new across the state.
Yeah, one of those things, those playoff dates, and it's a good thing there, Rich, is if you know your teams, there are predominant teams that go on to state. your cross country, you got wrestlers that go on, you'll have individual sport type of people that will go on, and then you may have some teams that predominantly go year and year. It's a good thing to set with those coaches in advance, and I mean way in advance, to get up those hotel rooms or places for those playoff dates so that you know that it's a very smooth transition going from district to a regional to a state concept, and you're taking care of those kids. That way everybody knows what's going on, but you don't want to be caught not having those rooms ready to go.
Absolutely. It doesn't cost anything to cancel a hotel reservation.
Okay, so that's moved right into the last one, which is the WIA calendar of events, and again, just knowing when things are like those state tournaments and doing what Rich and Jim are suggesting here, which is starting to anticipate and to plan ahead so that you can make reservations, make sure that your kids are not going to have any problems there. There are also other things that take place on the WIA calendar of events, and most of those you can find through My WIAA, and you all have access to that, and on it there'll be calendars, there'll be checklists of things that you need to complete, such as we've just talked about with pictures and rosters and things like that. So check back frequently in there so that you know if you've met those deadlines. There'll be reminders for you. If your coaches have gone through and taken their rules clinics when they're supposed to, all of that kind of information is available for you on that My WIAA. And Rich, you probably work with My WIAA more than Jim or I do as district directors. Anything that you want to say about My WIAA and what else you can find in there?
As a district athletic director, I might work with a little bit more than you guys do, but I don't work with it as much as our building level folks do. But yeah, it's I mean, you've got access to see who has taken the rules clinics. You need to make sure that you have your all your folks registered with My WIAA, so they're getting notices and emails. I find I have 3 comprehensive high schools in my district, and it just helps me sort of be able to get an overview of where each school is at as far as having all their their ducks in a row on things, and it's real easy to go touch base with the building AD about getting things updated and and whatnot.
Well, one of the things that you can have in your agenda for your schedules when you meet with your coaches meeting is about the WIA checklist, and show them what you've got to go through, or show them the different meetings or the eligibility dates that are coming up, or playoff dates that we've got to have certain things in. Those are things that are good informational pieces that you can give to at your coaches meeting, so everybody knows what's coming up the line and you're working together as a team.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay, Rich, we'll turn it over to you for the getting down to work then.
Okay, so thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and whether you're a first-year athletic director or a veteran, as long as if you're an AD, you go to meetings. Period. I mean, whether they're coaches or parents or sports or with your building administrative team or your district administrators, it's just part of your life to go to meetings, but also you're expected to run many meetings. And so I think I've got probably too much writing on these slides, and a lot of it is just, it's common sense things, but also I'm sure there's a few nuggets in here that Tom and Pick, you guys will be able to add in on. But I'm just going to kind of run through the bullet items here fairly rapidly. So, you know, the underlying thing with any meeting that you run is you've got to honor people's time. And I know there's a bullet later on in here, but Pick mentioned it earlier, is that, you know, if you say it's going to be a 1-hour meeting, then make sure it's a 1-hour meeting. You know, don't slop over. But every now and then things come up that we can't control and that, but, you know, it's just like when we were coaching. If we said the practice was going to be over at 5 o'clock and we practiced until 5:30 or 5:15, well, you know, you got people that are waiting out in the parking lot to pick kids up. You got people who trusted your schedule. Same thing with meetings. If you say the meeting is 45 minutes and you run over, especially if you do it habitually, you're going to lose some credibility with your folks. So honor people's time is the, I think, the most important thing to keep in mind. So
one of those things, though, you can do, and it's a little trick that goes with the meeting. If you know you're going to run over, you say the meeting's 45 minutes and you're going to run over, it's okay to ask for permission to go another 10 minutes, and that's it. Ask the people, ask permission from the coaches, and they'll tell you, no, we got to move, or yeah, we're okay, and then maybe a coach has got to leave. But you ask permission because now you're honoring them and you're honoring their time. They're going to honor your time and know that you're going to stay to the next 10 minutes because it's an important topic, and then done. No more.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and so they have buy-in. I mean, that's so important that, and I totally agree with you on that, is that put it out to them, let them know there's no secrets, there's no surprises, and that's a great idea to get buy-in from the group. So here we go. You know, if you are able to create a schedule for meetings, like you know, coaches meeting, you set a schedule for those that you're going to meet so many days before the beginning of a new season, or you have a regular day during the month that you're going to meet, or if you're like myself, a district athletic director, I meet with my ADs. We have a regularly scheduled day each month. I publish that. I put it out to everybody at the beginning of the year, and then you stick to it unless, you know, something, or a snow day comes up and you have to change or whatever. You know, if you have Outlook on your computer and you can send out invitations and reminders, you have your office professional do that. That's very helpful. I always try to send out, you know, at least a week ahead of time, a reminder, and I ask for agenda items, input from my ADs on agenda items. You can do that with your coaches as well. The next bullet talks about sticking to your time frame. I think we've talked about that quite a bit. Meet about things that have merit, that that you need a meeting for. If it can be handled in an email, reconsider about including that in a meeting. And I kind of learned the importance of that when I was an assistant principal at the high school, that you know, wasting people's time with a bunch of things that could have just been informational stuff that could have gone out on an email. People pick up on that, and it, again, if it's a continuous thing, if it's a habitual thing, they tend to get a little cranky about that, and you kind of lose them and you lose a little bit of credibility. So keep that in mind. We'll move to the next slide here. And guys, anytime, just jump in. Let's see. Okay, we should be on the next slide. Have an agenda. It's good to have a written plan for your meeting. It helps you pace your meeting. It helps, you know, just, I think people like to, like I said, no surprises, and to be as transparent as you can be on what the meeting is about and what's included. If you're going to have speakers, make sure they're included on the agenda. If you do a report out by sport or in the meetings I have, we do a report out by different departments. Make sure they're included on the agenda, and that they're very helpful. As I said, try to get input several days ahead of time from the people who are going to be attending. Send the agenda out with the reminder on Outlook. Again, office professionals are really valuable in getting that done. If you have the ability to consider seating arrangement at a meeting, I always try to make it a very inclusive seating arrangement. I try to get people more in a circle or around a table rather than a classroom setting where they're just sitting at desks in a classroom and you're up in front. I'll do that if I'm delivering information like at a parent meeting, but if I want conversation and I want input, I always try to be more of a inclusive seating arrangement so everybody feels that they have an equal place at the table.
That's a great suggestion, Rich. In particular, we all know that when people come into a meeting, the first seats that fill up are the ones in back, and by coming up with that kind of seating arrangement, you really deal with that issue too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One of the other things you can have at that meeting, and you may get down to a little bit farther, is to greet those people as they come to the door. You're not just going to sit up there in front and let everybody come. You got to greet them and let them know that, hey, I guess better in a bigger term, this is your team. As you were coaching your basketball team or a football team or wrestling squad or whatever team you were involved in, this is your team, your coaches are. And therefore, you've got to get them in the same page that you're working for so that they row in the same oar and going in the same direction that you want this department to go, or they want the department to go, or the district wants the department to go. So it's important that you build a relationship as fast and as quick and as honest as you can with them.
Yeah, Jim, I think you're absolutely right. And I mentioned it later on, I forget where, but, almost all of us are former head coaches, and at some point we probably experienced some success along the way. And we have to remember those things that made our programs successful. And what you just said is absolutely one of them, is that, yeah, you've got to continue that team building. And, if you're meeting, you got to be there before anybody else is there too. If you're the one who set the meeting and you come in right at 12 o'clock or 5 minutes late, it's just like walking into practice late. I mean, that's a loser, so no, you hit on a really important piece, and it can't be, it can't be highlighted enough. One of the things that, and I learned this again from my time as a assistant principal, is don't try to do more than you're capable of at a meeting. And by that, I mean, if you're not a funny guy, don't try to be funny at your meetings. It doesn't work. I mean, you can put a cartoon up on a slide or something that'll get a chuckle, but man, there's nothing worse than somebody trying to crack jokes and be the funny guy, and it's just fun, especially at a meeting. And again, that's sort of a credibility loser there. And then as a building administrator, I learned real quickly that as soon as you try to use technology, it doesn't work. And so if you're going to use technology at your meeting, practice, make sure that you can You can run the mouse, you can click the stuff, you can do the PowerPoint, you can make the video go. If you're not 100% confident with it, I would recommend that you probably reconsider, because again, your credibility is really important. And believe me, I know all of this from experience. I've had a staff of 100 sitting out there, and I tried to show something on screen, and didn't work, and it wasn't fun. I guarantee it. Remember, you're the gatekeeper and the timekeeper. Don't let it get away from you. And like we said, don't let it run too long. If you know it's going to go long, let the coaches know up front. Get their buy-in on it. That's a good way to go. If the meeting begins to go sideways, if somebody's got a bone to pick and they want to take the meeting time for a personal agenda item, I always try to just say, can we talk about that after the meeting? You and me, or if it's with a small group. But that's one of my pet peeves, is when people try to use meeting time for their personal agendas, and there's 90% of the folks in attendance don't give a rip because it's not their issue, and so you try to get those at a more personal time where you can give them the attention they need. I always try to have handouts, and but you make sure they're relevant and meaningful. I always try to have something educational as part of the meeting that they can walk away with, a magazine article or a new idea, or if nothing else, just positive things for them to take away with them, acknowledge them, honor people at the meeting. We're all educators, or we've been around them, so we know food and snacks are always appreciated. Having some waters available. Heck, I used to go and get a cooler and fill it with ice and put some cold sodas in there for the meeting. Again, it may be a little bit of bribery, but they do appreciate it. I think Jim or Tom, one of you mentioned it before, but know the history. If there's key or hot issues before you begin, make sure you're aware of those, and don't be surprised. That's one of the things that people, again, if you feel like you're being ambushed or something's coming out of left field, part of that, sometimes it's unavoidable, but part of it is if you did your homework, chances are you would have got wind, and you could at least be a little bit prepared for it. And then after the meeting, if you're able to send out written minutes and a summary to those who are in attendance or those who weren't able to attend, that's a good thing. Plus, you should have a written record of your meeting. I always have my office professional sit in on our meetings, and she takes the minutes and the notes. She'll write them up, give them to me for final approval, and then send them out to everybody who is on our list. And then ask for feedback. We always want to, keep improving, and ask for feedback from your team on how you can improve your meetings, and that. So, like I said, a lot of
part of that feedback is not just to write out an email. And I get tired of people just asking them email and say, "How'd the meeting go?" Go talk to them personally. Go hit out 2 or 3 of those people out there and ask them, "Hey, what do you think? Is this going? Am I meeting the needs? Not meeting the needs of your meeting?" Because they're going to respond back to you, that they know that you're being genuine about what you're trying to do and trying to get your department going. But if you make it really cold and just sending back and forth with emails or other ways of communication, versus the personal touch, you're going to go a long ways if you do the personal touch. I guarantee you.
And the one that I would add about the written minutes, number one, it's critical to get them out as quickly as possible after the meeting. Because the second thing I think that needs to happen is you need to send out the minutes and say, take a look at these. If you have any questions about it or you disagree with something that's in there, let me know right away. And I'm thinking particularly about, since we talked about being in charge of a sport before, you're in charge of a sport and you have a coaches meeting and you send out information afterwards on the minutes and say to them, if there's anything in here that you think was not correct based on our discussion, let me know right away. And the reason for that is when you get down close to playoffs, people's attitudes change, and they change because all of a sudden people realize where they are fitting into a bracket. When they're talking about a general bracket, people get along just great. But when they're talking about, oh, geez, we're going to have to play so-and-so, then they start thinking differently. And if you have a set of minutes that says everybody agreed to this bracket, or, you know, we talked about these topics and we solved all of that here, you've got those written, you've got the email trail saying that you've sent it out and asked for feedback on it and didn't get any, or you did and here's what that feedback was, you just make your life a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, selective memory does play into it sometimes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that covers what I had on meetings, and you know, like I said, it's a lot of stuff, and I probably left some things out. But you know, if anybody is, you know, picked up on things that I didn't include, or you have questions about it, you know, my email is included there earlier in the presentation. Please don't hesitate to get a hold of me. I'd be happy to take your input or talk to you about these things. Okay, so we'll go ahead to the next one. The looking ahead. Is that all right, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So another topic was, it was kind of a broad topic, is structures for success rather than designing for failure. Build to help you succeed. And, you know, like I said, I thought it's kind of a broad, wide-ranging topic. So I just did a little brainstorming of where I thought this topic was taking me. And so if I'm on track, that's great. If not, guys, please, you know, please chime in. But you know, like I said before, most ADs are former coaches, and you use the same foundation blocks that you use to make your program successful, and those things include, you know, attention to detail. And this is as an athletic director. If you want to be successful, you have to have attention to detail. You need to be proactive whenever you can rather than being reactive. Being set back on your heels is no fun. And having to react to things rather than being out front is I believe, the way that you want to operate. You've got to communicate. You can't not communicate. If you can't do that, then you're in the wrong business. That's where you make your money, is being a communicator. You've got to know yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses of yourself and your program. And obviously, you want to, you know, improve the areas that need improving, but you also, you know, you want to continue to play to your strengths, because that's what people are counting on, you know, and that's what they know about you. So always try to improve, but you know, stay true to what got you to where you are too. Plan ahead. We've got to, in our business, we've got to plan months ahead. We can't just be looking at the next day or the next week. If we do that, we're in trouble.
Rich, I want to jump on the being proactive one for a second. And I used to always have a saying that I said with my coaches that I don't want to be the last one to hear something. I need to hear it. If you're having a problem with a parent, I need to know it, because I don't want to get the phone call and that's the first time from the parent and that's the first time I've heard of it. So that being proactive to me meant always communicating with my coaches and saying, I just need to know what's going on. If you want me to help defend you, if you want me to help protect you, I need to know in advance so that we can deal with different things that might come up.
Right, and one of the things I used to tell my coaches all the time, and I even told parents and I've told athletes this, don't put me in a position that I can't defend. And I will not put you in a position you cannot defend. So that puts that coach in that thing. If you got issues out there, put me in the position I can help you. Don't put me in a position that I got to be proactive or excuse me, reactive versus proactive with you and then ward off some issues for you. So make sure that you put me in that position, and I'll help you do the same thing.
Absolutely, and I always let my folks know that nobody likes surprises. If something blew up on Friday night after a game, letting me know about it Monday may not be soon enough. I mean, you gotta, if there's hot items out there, if there's stuff like you said, Jim, that don't put me in a position where I can't defend you, or that I'm getting caught off guard with information, because then you have to, again, you're in a spot where you're, well, gosh, this is the first I've heard of it. I need to talk to my people, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't play real well sometimes. So no, you guys and your years of experience are, I mean, extremely valuable on things like this, but absolutely no surprises.
Yeah, it's real important, because as I used to hammer my coaches, so I don't want a phone call from the parent or superintendent that I didn't already know that was coming.
Yep.
I said, it's better off that I know, and I said, I don't care if it's 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning. If something happened that has really affected what's going on with your team and it needs to know, I need to know. Just give me a call. I said, I'd rather know that than get up the next morning and show up at work and go, what? I have no idea what this is. Why didn't you call me?
And for new athletic directors, believe me, it's going to happen. I mean,
yeah, it will.
It's going to happen. And so, yeah, just let the coaches know that you've got to be in the loop.
We do the same thing as district directors. I'll be calling Tommy, or Tommy will call me, or I'll call Shelley or other district directors. If something's coming down the line, I give them a heads up, or they're calling me, give me a heads up, because there may be some schools or whatever the issues may be that we're dealing with, so that we're prepared, so I can do some research or they can do some research before we come to this meeting or before there's something happens that we can't control.
Yep. All right. So just moving on, finishing up here, a few other things. Be accountable, take ownership. It's you're the AD. It's your athletic program. Just like when you were the head coach, it's your program. The buck's got to stop someplace. Like it or not, it's going to stop with you most of the time. And it's your program. So what goes on in it, you're going to be, right or wrong, you're going to be the one looked at as being responsible ultimately for many of the things that happen within the athletic program. Find a way to instill pride in your people, whether it's your office professional or your coaches. Even if you're a building athletic director, working with your building administrators to, if you can do something to pump them up, to make them excited about your athletic program, you need to do that. And you know, now earlier I talked about, you know, play to your strength. I mean, I'm not a real rah-rah guy. I don't get out there at the middle of assemblies and jump up and down and, you know, do all that stuff. But you've got to find ways to instill pride in your student body, in your athletes, that being an athlete representing high school X, Y, or Z is really a big deal. And again, as the director of athletics, if you can't get out there and get people fired, you got to figure out ways to get other people to do it for you, or find ways behind the scenes to make that happen. That's part of the fun of being a high school AD, is when you're hitting on all cylinders and people are jazzed about whatever it is, whether it's your cross-country team or your girls basketball team going to state or having a great season. I mean, it's just one of the things that make your job really worthwhile. You know, have goals and share them. You know, what is it? A goal without a goal that's not made public is just a wish. Is that there's a saying that's kind of like that. That you know, if you have a goal, you got to let people know about it. Otherwise, it's just something you're wishing for. And goals for your program, and those are important. And you know, and if you can establish an identity or a signature for your athletic program, you know, what is it that you're going to hang your hat on? Is it that, you know, whenever you're going to have great hospitality for your visitors when they come to your school, or when your school travels, they're always going to present themselves in this fashion or that fashion, or, you know, whenever you have a meeting, you host a meeting at your school, this is what people can count on. And I mean, just any number of things, but, you know, what's your athletic program's identity going to be? And those aren't easy to come up with. And some of us have the luxury of decades of tradition that, you know, we inherit when we take our dip. But there's others. I mean, I've started a high school athletic program, and believe me, it takes a while to come up with, you know, what it is that you want people to think about when they think about your program, or when they come to your school, they know that they're going to have this kind of experience. So that's going to take some doing, but it's really important. As district athletic director at North Thurston Public Schools here in Lacey, I came up with these 3 foundation blocks for all of our athletic programs, whether it's middle school or high school, that our #1 job is to provide opportunities for all kids, that we're always going to act with integrity, and that we strive for excellence in everything we do. And you know, that's just something that I keep out in front of people all the time. It's on the agenda, it's on letterhead, it's on my notepads, it's on my emails. You know, just these are the things that we do, and we're going to do them as well as we possibly can, because #1, it's all about the kids, and it's providing those quality opportunities for our kids. And yeah, I just it's really important to me, and I try to make it important to everybody else. So that is a lot of stuff, but that covers it.
Great, thank you, Rich. Those are great, and I think especially this at the end here where you talk about your foundational beliefs. You know, we've talked on several of these webinars about your mission statement, and making sure that you know that mission statement, you have it out there in front of everybody. You've talked today about sharing goals and putting those goals out in front so that people can see them, and I think by putting those out there every time something comes up, you can go back to and say, if something comes up in a coaches meeting or in a faculty meeting or whatever, hey, are we providing opportunities? Are we acting with integrity, and are we striving for excellence? You keep asking those questions, and it keeps people focused on what you're doing. So those are awesome things to be doing. I would also say, and then Pick, I'll let you come in, but take ownership. To me, leadership is something where you take ownership. If there's problems, you take ownership. You say, hey, we're going to get it fixed, and I'm going to, it's my fault we're in this situation. We're going to get it fixed. And then when there are successes, then you share those successes with other people, and allow them to be the ones who look good in those kinds of situations. And those really are the things that leaders do. So great list there, Rich.
Good. Well, thank you.
Pick, did you have something you wanted to add? No? Okay. So again, Rich said this earlier, if any of you have questions as you go through any of this, the last slide in here has got all of our email addresses. Please contact us and let us know what you'd like more information about, or what either we've confused you with today, or maybe some problems that you're facing in your own job that you're looking for some help with. Please feel free to contact us directly via the email. The next slide shows the next session, which takes place January 13th, 9:30 a.m., and shows the sections that we're going to cover in that particular one. Rich or Pick, have you got any final thoughts today for anybody?
The one thing that I think keeps echoing in my mind as we go through this is that, what is the most important sport that you cover? And a parent asked me that one day, and I thought about it. And an answer is the sport that your son or daughter plays in. That's the most important one. And keep that in mind as you go through your sports and trying to help each individual provide opportunities for them to be successful.
Yep, absolutely. And I learned early on as a building AD that everybody who walks into your office, their field of vision is about 2 inches wide, because everything that's on their mind, what's on their mind is a crisis to them. And you have to have the broad, as the AD, your vision is, I always move my arms way out wide and say, this is my perspective, but their perspective is like real focused and very microscopic, but you got to understand that, because it's really important to them. And so Pick what you said, the most important sport is the one your kid is playing. Yeah, absolutely. But the person next to you, well, that's the same answer to them, and the same answer to the other guy, and the same answer to whichever coach walks in your door. Because everything's a crisis to them, and we have to be ready to handle that.
Absolutely. Perfect.
And guys, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share some thoughts and be part of this. It's an important job that we all have, and to be able to, work with new ADs and experienced ADs on stuff like this, I appreciate the opportunity. So thank you, Tom and Pick and Dave Ticker and everybody else who's brought this together.
Great. Thank you, Rich, and thank you for all the effort and thought you put into your preparation for today. We appreciate that as well. So on the last slide, we've got the slide with all of the email addresses. So we can put that last one up, Rich. If you have any questions, you want to make contact with any of us, like I said, this was originally scheduled for December 2nd, and we had technical problems, couldn't finish it. So Wendy was going to be here today and wasn't able to be, and Steve, we're going to get him on a future one. But if you have any questions, please get a hold of any of us and let us know how we can help you. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to go through this, and have a great day, and I'm going to stop.